and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Richey of the MHRT Network. Over there to my right is the real Alex Gibbons. You can catch his content over there on Airhead Addict, and you can also catch him during the regular season with Coach Defense for the Lightning Fast Fantasy Podcast. No, that's just an ass. And down directly below here is
an ass.
Yes, on some days. And
Hey, at least I'm wearing pants, okay? I don't want to hear your crap, okay?
Well, thank goodness we didn't have a Folgers moment. And
right over
or dare I say a CNN moment where you just like stand up but there's no pants on. And
that guy still works too.
I know that's sad. That's sad. And so then we have Captain Jack here, Captain Jack Rackham. Catch him on YouTube and all other social media platforms all throughout the week. And we have our returning guest host, Monsieur Robert Garcia. I said that with the French accent just for fun.
Yeah.
Roberto.
Hey, I'm still here, so I might be a little bit better than all right.
Yeah. Hey, like I said, if he becomes like, what is it, the water boy's dad, he'll go from being Robert, Roberto,
like Tiger Woods and his daddy.
Yeah. Like I said, you got to be able to. Hey, do you know how to roll your R's? I got.
Yes,
okay.
I do.
Let's hear you say Roberto.
Oh my God! All right, Roberto.
Nah, you suck, man.
That's pretty good. That's as good as I'm getting. So anyways, guys, we're gonna jump right into it. Trust me when I say I expect there to be some disagreements on the show today, just a little bit. And of course, it wouldn't be an AFC West roundtable podcast without healthy disagreements because, well, we're all rivals. So that's the way it works. So we're gonna just kick it off quickly first here, Alex. Get a little of kind of your take on the game, the good, the bad, and kind of go from there, and then we'll get our initial analysis before we get into some of the underpinning issues that we'd like to discuss after the fact.
I'm gonna need a donut or 3. Go ahead.
Yeah, just in case no one was aware, Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl, so Smug's gonna be on full prowess today. Somewhat kidding, I guess, but yeah, I thought overall, I guess let me preface with this. I would say that the Ravens lost that game more than the Chiefs won.
Yes, you are correct, sir.
And that's mainly because, I guess that's somewhat twofold, because I also think going into this game, the Chiefs defense was not given the credit that they probably deserved from their year resume of shutting down, offenses. And I think going into the game, the whole narrative was, Baltimore has the number one defense. They're going to shut down KC. They also have the number one offense. KC's not going to know how to stop it. And did not give really much credence to the fact that KC has not, I think, allowed more than 21 points once, this season as a defensive unit, regardless of what the offense is doing in terms of turning the ball over, are kind of putting them behind the 8 ball. So, overall, I think that's what we saw, a pretty giant plunder from Baltimore's offense, just in terms of how successful they've been all year. But at the same time, the Chiefs fan in me says, that's also part of the Chiefs defense is an elite unit, and people don't seem to, give them that kind of credit. That being said, though, I thought Lamar, you could kind of tell that there was a big component of this game that felt like it was all came down to, composure and kind of the moment not being too big for you and somewhat being there before. And as the game went on, you could tell the Ravens just sort of lost their composure. And, it got to a moment of just understanding where you're at in the magnitude of the game and not making, mistakes. And I kind of say that to preface or kind of shed light on the whole Zay Flowers thing. I mean, because that dude did have a giant 30-yard plus gain and then decided to kind of take it the extra step and do all the extra stuff. You could say it wasn't shouldn't have been a call or not, but more likely than not, if you're spinning the ball and standing over someone, they're going to throw a flag, regardless of who you are.
Fantastic call. It was deserved.
And, yeah, but I'd say that's stage one of like not keeping your composure, and then just kind of the cherry on top is him ultimately going to score a touchdown to make it a 3-point game and Sneed, the very guy that he stood over and talked trash to, who has also only given up basically like one touchdown all year, got the ultimate payback and punched it out. And, we saw a fumble go into the end zone for a safety, which I think kind of further goes to the fact that, Casey's defense clearly showed up to play for this game. And I'd say that Baltimore's defense showed up to play as well. They were playing lights out. Because, regardless of the score 17-10, people don't look at that and think initially like, oh, the Chiefs, they didn't score in the second half. They had less than 100 yards of offense after halftime. I think that's a pretty big testament to how both these teams' defenses were playing. And it just, like I said, kind of last week, it came down to sort of final possession and not making a mistake. And, at least with the Chiefs offense, they put points up early and didn't get in the defense's way and didn't turn the ball over. We didn't see any, stupid mistakes or interceptions in negative yardage or anything like that. Where on the flip side, you saw an interception from Lamar into triple coverage. You saw a strip sack fumble. I think Zay Flowers' fumble. You saw 3 turnovers there, and on top of that, they got 4 sacks. So, they were continuously getting after Lamar, and I think ultimately that rattled them. But on top of that, Baltimore had 8 penalties for 95 yards. So, you kind of talking about Chiefs games this whole season, it's been like what mistakes have they made to put the defense in bad positions and, ultimately lose the game. And that script there is like the Space Jam moment. Like they touched a football before the game and transferred all that bad mojo to Baltimore. It's like everything that normally happens in the KC offense, at least in the regular season, seemed to happen for Baltimore. But, ultimately, I think it was all around, pretty solid AFC Championship game. It's kind of the number one teams that get like rated teams in terms of defense and at least offensive kind of against each other. And we saw a pretty good product, outside of some, other stuff that I know we'll get into later in the game or later in the show here. But yeah, I think biggest thing offensively, like I said, they're not doing stuff to shoot themselves in the foot. They're not getting in the way. They're very clearly kind of playing to what their identity should have been all year of like, we just have to be good enough to win games and trust that we have a defense that's actually good and can scheme and play other teams in ways to shut them down or shut down what they do. At least through these playoffs, we've seen them play like that. Is ultimate. Mahomes hasn't had a turnover all postseason. I think we saw one McCole Hardman fumble, and that's been the only turnover the playoffs so far. So, I'd say offensively, that's just the biggest thing was they were able to kind of continue this trajectory they've been on in the playoffs of playing good, clean football and putting points up when they need to and not being too conservative, but also not being too aggressive later in the game to, create issues. Kelsey that's why I wore the jersey. Kelsey had an all-time, Travis Kelsey performance, 11 catches on 11 targets for 116 yards and a touchdown. And I think it's interesting to see kind of the production we've seen out of Kelsey in the playoffs compared to kind of the stretch of week 12 to 17 where he was getting 3 targets a game and barely used. It certainly seems to be, he's still got some gas in the tank. It just matters on, I guess, when those games are played. And then obviously MVS, I know it's been in the comments, kind of a poetic full circle moment for him as the guy who's basically, I know I talked about it last week, single-handedly lost not single-handedly, but definitely played a huge part in and losing a game or two in the regular season for not catching a ball, and then, when it's needed most, comes up with a 32-yard grab to seal the game on
2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Give him credit. 2 weeks
And the funny thing is, his stat line was 2 catches for 38 yards. So legit, his stat of that game was that one 32-yard catch.
All he needed.
And I think that's a testament too of Mahomes, and all year he said, if you're open, I'm throwing it. Like I'm never going to lose trust, and it hasn't fully materialized when you look at how much MVS got paid this year versus stats. But in big moments in these last 2 playoff games, that's where they've had to go, and he's made the play. So I think that's just kind of an all-around testament to, like I said, this offense finally figuring out kind of their identity, when considering what the team has as a whole, and making the plays when they need to, but also not trying to, squeak out a home run shot just because like they have in the past. Then, defensively, like I said, a continued elite performance, honestly. 4 sacks of Lamar's, that's a pretty huge testament of itself, on top of a strip sack and, another interception. And ultimately they held Baltimore to 81 rushing yards, which I might be off, but I think they were the number 1 rushing team in the league. But I won't get into the fact that I fully expected Baltimore to run the hell out of the ball, and they only handed off to running back 6 times. I don't know why it seemed to be like they wanted to emphasize the pass more heavily, especially because I know I've said the biggest weakness of the Chiefs is their running defense, and I thought that would be the very crucial matchup of this game. But Baltimore was like, hold my beer. I'm going to just throw the ball instead.
Todd Monken told you to hold his beer.
I'm going to throw the ball 37 times. And to their credit, that whatever game plan they had, it wasn't remotely, it wasn't like it was off by any means. If you take away the Zay Flowers fumble, it's a 3-point game, going into the 4th. So, outside of mistakes, they were there, and what they wanted to do. I just thought it was odd that they didn't rush all that much. Like I said, I think play of the game was that punch-out fumble on the goal line.
That was it.
That was the game right there.
And on top of, this defense pretty much, they kind of like Baltimore's, whereas the second half they allowed under 100 yards. Outside of once the Ravens scored that touchdown at the second drive of the game, they didn't put up anything else outside of that field goal in the 4th. So, equal testament to the Chiefs side of the ball, and they were able to shut things down. And I wrote this down because it was kind of interesting. So after that touchdown, out of the rest of their 3 out of 5 drives that they didn't kneel the ball, they punted on 3 of them. So, they converted that. And then in the second half, you saw the same, it was punt, fumble, interception, field goal. So, continued to
Alex,
dominate.
Do you know how many
the
rushing yards Baltimore had from non-running backs? Or from their running backs total? How many rush yards did they have?
23 yards total.
27.
23 on 6. Zay Flowers doesn't count.
Yeah, Zay Flowers.
He's a wide receiver. But
okay, well,
they had 6 total carries to actual running backs. Where they handed the ball off.
So including Zay Flowers, it was 27. Excluding Zay Flowers, it was 23, which is just, to say it's uncharacteristic is
15 of those yards came on 1 carry for Gus Edwards.
I will say there were definitely times where you could tell they were trying to run, and the Chiefs would stuff them. And
were
then
there?
I
couldn't tell.
There's one Justin Reed stuffed Gus for a loss of 1 or 2, and that was, I think, the start of drive off on a stretch, and he sniffed that out rather quickly. And I think as a former offensive player, you kind of have 1 to 2 plays in mind to start your drive, and depending on how those go, it's is the oh crap factor kick in, and you're calling 4 verts just to get 10 yards. And I think that's, again, a testament to how this Chiefs defense played. There was definitely times where you could tell they had a set plan in place to try to get something going, and either Justin Reed or Drew Tranquil or one of the defensive linemen was able to create the pressure they needed to kind of take that away. So, yeah, I mean, overall, great defensive performance. Like I kind of said earlier, out of 7 out of the last games, the Chiefs have given up 21 points or fewer. That's including the playoffs. So, again, I mean, they've just continued on this dominant run that we haven't normally seen in KC. I think this is the first time in Mahomes' career he's had a defense that ranks, higher than 20th. So
top 10 scoring defense.
Yeah, but then the catch-22 of that is the offense doesn't carry the same potency that it normally does.
It doesn't matter, dude.
Yeah.
It's a W.
Exactly.
It's a
exactly.
Hey, what did the great patriarch say, Alex? And you know who the great patriarch is. Just win, baby. And that's all that counts, man. It doesn't matter how. It doesn't matter how ugly it is. It's a win. And so that's a win for you. And we will talk about all of it because I'm not going to berate a lot of what you're saying. We'll berate other things, but I wanted to make sure you got some air because you were just talking and talking and talking. And I wanted to make sure you got a rest.
I appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, that I'd say kind of a good summarization of my thoughts on the game, and
Robert, we're going to throw over to you and get your thoughts on things first. Outcome of the game, and just some other information, and then we'll throw it to Captain. And I'll go last.
Yeah. I mean, that game, I said it last week. I said whoever was going to be able to run the ball better and whoever was going to be able to control the time of possession was going to win this game. And, I knew it wasn't going to be an insanely high scoring one. I did expect, I think I said 24-21 or something like that. I knew these offenses could put up points, but I don't know what the Ravens were thinking with this game plan. I mean, Todd Monken, you guys have the number 1 rushing attack the entire year. It's been your identity the entire year. And I mean, I get it. You go down early, that Lamar strip sack, it obviously put you guys in a hole, but your defense shut them out in the second half. There was so much time for you to still control clock, and I mean, we're looking, like I said, obviously Zay Flowers fumble, that was the killer. And then Lamar trying to force it. And for everybody saying that was PI, you cannot throw into triple coverage and be expected to be bailed out by a flag. You just can't do it. It's just a bad decision.
Well, you can if you're the Chiefs.
Well, that's true. That is true. If you're Patrick Mahomes, yes, you can do that.
I just want to make that point. Yes,
that
you
is
can.
Very true.
There you go. Go ahead, sir.
But, I think we all kind of expect Lamar's probably going to win the MVP this year. There's really nobody else that really could pull away. You could say Christian McCaffrey. You could say Brock Purdy, maybe. I personally think it's Lamar.
It's going to be Lamar.
He's going to be the first multiple winner of the MVP award to not even make it to a Super Bowl, let alone win.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think the MVP would be Josh Allen. When you look at the actual stats, Josh Allen had stats that matter. He had elevated stats that matter. It's actually really my look. I'm going to be honest. I had the same opinion as you, and then I had someone within my comments in my circle of friends.
Yeah, looked at the stats.
Who then responded to me and said, "Look,
but I mean, MVP voting, the stats don't always matter.
Yeah, it's also about your record as well. And the Ravens are the number 1 seed, and they were the number 1 seed for most of the year. And on top of that, they were destroying top-rated teams throughout the whole year. I mean, they dismantled
they blew
the
out
Niners.
the 49.
Yeah, exactly. So
Niners team.
so I mean, like, I think I saw something. Their average margin of victory against teams against playoff teams is like 25 points or something like that. So they were dominating all season. And I know the MVP award. It's mostly a quarterback's award. They're never going to give it to running backs or never going to give it to a wide receiver. So I think just the way that game went, I feel like the Ravens got scared so early on, and they just tried to go in a direction that is not them. It's not their identity. And I mean, you saw it. 10 points is, and I get it. Credit to the Chiefs defense, fantastic defense. They've been playing great all season. I don't think they've given up more than double-digit points in the second half in their last 11 games or something like that. So they've been playing lights out, and I give all the credit to them. But this game was absolutely lost by the Ravens. They had every chance to win this game, and they just blew it. And that's not to say that Mahomes wouldn't have gone down and did what he does and drive down the field with however much time left to walk them off with a field goal or a touchdown. But the Ravens absolutely choked this game away.
No, yeah, like I said earlier, I think it came down to a composure thing ultimately, and you could tell the Ravens were trying to get chippy and get after him, and then that ultimately backfired. You know, culminates with the Zay Flowers fumble. Then you got Raquan Smith, who I'm pretty sure was told to go off sides, but I think out of frustration just wanted to light up Trey Smith. But then that results in a personal foul, and you know, totally negates the game plan. But yeah, I mean, I definitely, like I told, I know it's on some Ravens Twitter people, I said, you know, that team will definitely be back, assuming they keep that core together. I mean, it like I said, ultimately came down to this. I think there was a component of like who'd been there before and who could handle the moment, and you know, they ultimately kind of enclosed on themselves, you know, later in the game when it seemed to be getting out of reach.
When you're saying that about the Ravens being back, I don't know if they will have this easy of a time getting back. Their division was awful this year. Lamar was far and away the best QB in that division once Burrow went down, and then it wasn't even a, you know, like
like yeah, I mean.
So like I hear you with the, I think they'll be back too, but man, I don't think they'll be back as the 1 seed or you know, as this powerhouse that we see them as.
No, I mean, yeah, and I think to quote Coach, like he said, you know, this is a bad time. Hey, it's not my word, so you know, you can call me smug, but you know,
we will.
For these to be down years for the Chiefs, and I mean, they were the 3 seed with all road games, and they still made it back to the Super Bowl. It's gonna be tough for some of these teams like the Ravens and Bills. You know, and some of these teams in their competitive window might be closing. Going to be hard to sustain it. The reason I say the Ravens probably more is just because I think the Bills are going to be a totally different team this next year. Cincy might be different. Yeah, I mean, Cincy might be different depending on the T. Higgins stuff, and because you got all these big contracts finally kicking in.
Come to the Chargers, T. Come to the Chargers. Come play with Justin Herbert.
You'll screw them up. Yeah, it doesn't
matter. If there's one thing we can get good, it's wide receivers.
You guys don't need another 6'4"
and you don't do anything with them. You can get the wide receiver. It's kind of like when Jerry Seinfeld says, "You know how to take a reservation. You just don't know how
to hold a reservation."
Yeah, there you go. You don't know how to hold a reservation. There you go.
Yeah, what about your thoughts there on what Robert said?
Who, me?
No, the other captain.
No, I didn't hear. That's why I asked you. You're about as smug as that a-hole over in the way. I'll make sure that a-hole
is down right now.
And you're smugging that. And I haven't even gotten on Roberto, who I can say the R is better than him. And I'm a white dude. So you better. Oh, you, Robert.
I'll let you think that.
No, I know that. Trust me, shipmate. I got that. Anyway, about the game, I'm going to say the one thing, and I said this immediately on my Sunday show because I do have my Ask Captain Jack Sunday show, and I said it was not the Chiefs that blew the game. It wasn't the officials. Aside from the one call that should have been called, that would have been I say that the one that I saw, which was the pass interference, which would have been good, but it was the Ravens doing stupid things, and it looked like the Ravens had gone back to the Brian Billick school of arrogance and FU. Because remember when the Ravens were back when they won the Super Bowl with Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and all of those guys and Tony Serafazzo, and that is his name. Yes, may you rest in peace.
R.I.P. man.
But Tony Serafazzo, all of those things. Hi, Kerry, good to see you. I do pay attention to the comments, but when it's there, and they had the sheer, we're good, we bad mother. Right now, we're going to just show, and they were just like that, right? They lost their composure, okay? They thought that they're too big for their boots because they had the number one offense and the number one defense, and they forgot it doesn't matter what the stats say, you got to play. And when your best receiver in that game, obviously, Zay Flowers, commits over 100 yards and penalties by himself, that's stupid. And when you stand over a guy, and you talk to him and you spin the ball, that is called taunting.
I'm gonna throw it every time.
Look at the F up, okay? And when you do other things like, and by the way, the one thing I said was that Van Noy, who popped Kelsey in that one play. Alex, I'm gonna ask this, and if you don't agree with me, I'm gonna just go blasting on you, okay? In my estimation, even though there was contact by Van Noy, because he actually went up to him, it should have been dual personal fouls on Kelsey and Van Noy, because he instigated it and he responded. It is the AFC friggin' championship game, and you are playing favorites because somebody is going out with some biatch that sells a lot of records, okay? That's BS because of the biatch, okay? I'm just saying it should have been personal fouls on both.
And but the ultimate saying that any coach will tell you is never be the second person. In
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I get that. But if you go look at the calls,
Kelsey was the second guy.
Yeah, that's what it is too.
But when you have an instigation, and it was so
Kelsey
blatant,
was the second guy in, though. That's the point.
It was such.
Was he? I don't remember that one.
No. So there was another dude that was there. So Van Noy, there's another guy. Sorry, that made the play.
Right.
Kelsey came up and started jarring, and then pushed the other guy. So Kelsey was number 2, and then Van Noy came in and said, like, "Are you freaking kidding me?"
Yeah.
And then jarred, and then kind of did like.
It's not incorrect though. The penalty was assessed determining the interaction between Kelsey and Van Noy. So yes,
Van
Noy.
Screw you, Smug! It should have been both.
I don't disagree with you, but I'm just saying, like, every coach I've ever had is like, if something's getting chippy, you never be the second person.
Yeah.
Never respond.
I got
and
you.
So
I get
what you're saying, but
in something that important, because it was that close to the goal line, and to give them extra life that gave them out to like the 20-something yard line, that was a crock of crapola. And I'm watching my mouth.
And I also think, Captain, the other thing you're missing there is it sets the tone for the game.
Yes.
So the tone for that game is like it or not, and trust me, I am fair on both sides of this.
Yeah.
It sets the tone to Kelsey to say that he then believes that you can get away with it. Yeah, you can do whatever you want, and you're going to get away with it.
They already believe that.
And hold on, hold on, Captain, hold on.
Stand up.
Hold on. And you actually saw Kelsey throughout various parts of the game continue to be kind of boisterously aggressive in scenarios like that after that no call. And in my opinion, whatever you want to take it for, I actually believe that if he had been called for, as a kind of a double-ended penalty on that, I actually think that he would have reined it back in. And frankly, I think it would have made for just as interesting of a game, but made some of the little extracurriculars that we saw from Kelsey kind of get toned down a little bit, which I think probably would have been more enjoyable, especially considering the large percentage of the people viewing the game were not actual fans of either team.
Yeah.
Right? So they're just football fans. They just want to see a good game. Right? And I think that's an important piece.
And that was taken away from them. And like I said, Alex, I agree with you. The Ravens shot themselves in the foot more often than not. That is true. The Chiefs played better in all facets of the game, and they deserved to win. That is true.
Yeah.
It was, but all of the other things. Okay. And like I said, the Ravens, like I said, when Roquan Smith blasted over that dude, all he had to do was touch him. But then when he went stupid on him. So again,
he went AWOL.
It was a lot of self-inflicted stuff. I really think that it should have been an offsetting on the Van Noy Kelsey. I think it probably that might have set the tone as well. It's like you're not just giving Kansas City every freaking call. It should have been a pass interference call late in the game.
They didn't get every call, though, just so you're aware. There was a missed trip on Chris Jones that was absolutely a safety. And then there's 2 points and the ball back that they took away.
Well,
they called the hold on Trey Smith on a screen that took a touchdown off, which wasn't really a hold. But, so it goes both ways. If you want to cherry-pick the calls that Baltimore didn't get, that's fine.
Trust me. Do you think that I'm cherry-picking calls? I'm just
I had to bring up the Chiefs ones, did I not?
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying,
you were going to talk about them.
Well, okay, but what I'm saying is that even if you do that, and then it makes it more of a competitive, fair game, and it wasn't a fair game because everybody that was watching on TV, and you talk about what people say that again, what Richie said, being a non-Chiefs fan or a non-Ravens fan. And the static that's in the comment section about, my God, get up, Zebra, you're blowing the game. Get off your knees. It's stuff like that because it was them blowing the – yeah, if you don't get that, dude, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, it's just so obvious. But it made for such – I'm like, I don't want to watch this. And I don't want to watch this because it was blatantly one-sided. And I told Clifford that we would get involved into the pregame festivities because I said it was going to work around that.
Yeah, let's cover that just after I go over a little bit of kind of what I saw. So I typically agree.
Again, Chiefs won. They deserved to win, but the Ravens basically handed it to them, and the officials helped out a lot. That's my bottom line.
I agree. So there's a few things, Alex, that in your assessment of returning that I think you missed for the Ravens. One, the schedule, as you did allude to, is going to be much harder this next year. So that will be, Robert, you mentioned as well. Yes, the short answer, yes. However, they're also going to have to come up with an answer on multiple pass rushers on a single team because they didn't do particularly well when the Chiefs had a three-headed monster in the pass rush. They've obviously done better throughout the regular season, but they didn't do particularly well in this game. And I do wonder if that had to do with the fact that the Ravens opted to pass it all over the schoolyard instead of run the ball and maybe adapt to a more heavy set running game where they ended up maybe bringing another lineman, stacking tight ends, doing something to kind of jumpstart that run game to wear down the Chiefs pass rush. And obviously we'll get into this next week largely, but the injury, unfortunately, to one of the Chiefs pass rushers there, Minihue, who
had the strip sack. He tore his ACL the next play after that.
Yeah, he had a great game, and he was having a great playoff, right? And so I think that you guys should be pretty happy with him as a pickup, bringing him into the team. But
former 49er too.
But not having him there for the Niners game will certainly bring that pass rush down a notch.
I don't know. I mean, the one positive is the Minihue was on a 6-game suspension, so we already have 6 to 7, maybe 8 games of a different rotation of guys who already have experience because they had to do that at some point of the year. Sure. And I mean, once he went out, you saw Chris Jones play more on the end, so that was obviously Spagnuolo's answer to that was just move Jones outside. They brought Wharton in who played more, and he actually got a sack too. So. It definitely will play a factor, but I don't know if it would be as big as if he were, the starter for 17 games and this was the rotation for the full regular season plus these playoffs, and then he went down. But yeah,
Rich, is that your burner account?
No.
Ed, I will. I'm going to go ahead and tell you no.
If they're referring to Ellis, as in Joe Ellis in there.
It looked like Doc Ellis, the former Pirate.
No, but if that's Joe Ellis that they're referring to as part of that name, we are going to have some words after the show. and they likely won't be as kind as I'm sure you would hope.
I'm just saying that looks like a picture of Doc Ellis, the Pirates pitcher from the early 70s.
Oh no, it is. It's Doc Ellis. Yeah, it's Doc Ellis. Yeah.
Well, there you go. See, I know. I'm talking about. Don't say Joe Ellis. I got your Joe Ellis right there. That's Doc Ellis.
So, but anywho, with regards to my take on the Chiefs game, I too agree with the general consensus, which is I think the Ravens largely lost it. I think they didn't adjust the way that they should. I think they could have done things that they should have done and they didn't. I think it hindered the ability to slow down the pass rush. And I also think it, Robert, to your point, they had the ability, even in the first half of the game, to recontrol that time of possession, the pace of the game, change things up. And they opted to continue to play backyard, schoolyard football. And that is not Lamar's bread and butter. He's not particularly good at it. And they put him, in my opinion, they did him a disservice. They did not do what they needed to do to put their quarterback and their team in the right spot to win that game. That being said, the Chiefs capitalized on those mistakes. They maximized the pressure on Lamar as a result. You saw him making rush throws and mistakes. And we'll get into it a little bit later once we kind of move on to the next segments here about the 3 or 4 kind of unique scenarios that we saw play out in the game. And Alex, before you reiterate what you've already said, yes, there were calls that were perhaps a bit much that were called against the Chiefs. Yes, there were calls that were also called against the Ravens, however, that were maybe a bit much given the fact that you're in a playoff game as well. But the calls that we're talking about, or at least we're going to talk about, in my opinion, are the ones that I at least want to bring up and want to make sure we discuss are ones that could have had an impact on the game and were obvious and egregious. So yes, there was a couple calls that you look back, watching it in slow-mo where you're like, hey, that shouldn't have happened. It is a much different thing to make a decision on a no call when things are one-on-one sideline holds or like literally front and center on the jumbotron as the dude's about to catch a ball. Sorry, you can't miss the fact that something took place when it shouldn't have. Like things like that would otherwise and normally get called in games. Those are the types of calls where I take off all fandom and look at it from a pure football perspective and simply say, I would be making I would have the same kind of words if it was the Chiefs or if it was the Ravens. In this case here, the 2 or 3 that I saw at least happened to be against the Chiefs and in favor of the Ravens. But if there was an egregious, like an absolute open one where like I saw like a jersey being like pulled back and all you see is like, the laundry stretch occur on the field, I'd be making the same kind of comments if it was the other way around. And I didn't see the same egregious no calls as I did in the other direction. So with that in mind, let's throw over to you, Captain, and get you to, we'll go back in kind of like reverse order here and talk about the calls. Obviously, the one that we should go over is I'm not going to lie. That was a stupid throw to begin with. But
in triple coverage?
Yes.
Oh yeah. I mean, because everyone wants to throw into triple coverage because you have such a high percentage of making the throw, right?
Why is Isaiah likely throwing his arm up like he's open? The dude has 2 DBs on him, and you're running a seam route. You have no separation. I don't understand what. I mean, it is on him for throwing his hand up, but Lamar, you are not supposed to throw that ball.
Well, he likely thought he was open.
It reminds me of the throw that Josh Allen makes. Not that it was a difficulty throw, but at the end of the Bills Chiefs game, why are you throwing to the end zone in that situation? There is no need for you. There is still so much time left in the game for you to control the clock and for you to get what's the word? A sustained drive going. And you're just trying to get it cheap. Like he went deep to Zay Flowers a bunch of times, and it worked. Like sometimes, obviously, and then he had the dumb penalty, the taunting penalty that brought him back a little bit. But we all alluded to earlier, they got away from their game plan, what made them the Ravens so early on, and it was like I could understand if you were down 24-0, 21-3 or something early on. You were down, what was it, 13 or 14 at the most? In the first half, like they shot themselves in the foot over and over again.
Yeah, so obviously there's the triple coverage throw. Earlier in the game, there was the one on the sideline that you kind of have seen circulate on X, which is certainly one that I saw, and I was screaming at the TV when I saw it live on the TV. I was like, really? I mean, like really.
Talking about the Odell one?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Odell also initiated that contact on his own. I mean, he's notorious for doing that. So
bumping into
if you go watch the clip, it's funny because you said, when you play stuff over in slow motion, but then the very penalty you're referring to is only made popular on X or Twitter by one single still shot of the very moment that Odell initiates contact and pulls away. It's just like you use these words of egregious and calls that change the landscape of the game when there's equal call. Hey, what do you mean be careful? I'm not walking into a trap, man. They missed a call on Chris Jones tripping. That was a safety. That's 2 points and the ball back. You want to talk about changing the landscape of the game? Mm-hmm. That takes points off the board.
Agreed.
You're talking about one that was sailed into the sideline that should have been a PI maybe. When if you go watch the whole thing, Odell has separation, goes back, creates the contact, and the ball's over his head.
Yep.
So where's this trap laid?
Well, you're assuming that I only watched a still photo, which is wrong. I watched the entire play.
I also walked through the whole play just now.
Right.
So
but
there's no real need to talk about
the whole play.
That was just an extra jab in there.
Yeah, well, I watched the whole play, and the concept still remains. And I don't disagree with you that Chris Jones being tripped shouldn't have been called as well. I can come at it from both angles. I still maintain though that even though Odell came back and initiated contact, in theory that could also be offensive pass interference or offensive. I don't think it's PI. I think it's just
illegal hands
or something.
Illegal touching.
And so you could potentially get into that. However, I actually think that where the most egregious part of that play was, it wasn't so much the fact that the ball went over his head. It's the fact that when Odell was trying to re-separate himself, that his left arm, or right arm, I guess, if I'm remembering kind of the mirror image on screen there, was being kind of armbarred and held by the defender. And there's just certain things, for example, I'll use your Chris Jones tripping penalty. You can't trip a defender when he's trying to make a play. Just stop it.
In your own end zone, nonetheless.
Right. I mean, that's just dumb. Like, that's just stupid. Another one, don't grab a dude's jersey in front of a ref and all the ref sees is the guy's jersey stretched out. We can agree that should be a holding play and holding penalty all day long. Yep, great. In this case here, there's another one that's kind of pretty egregious and blunt, which is when a dude's trying to jump up or kind of move and accelerate or get to the ball, and all you see is his arm on like full stretch mode, trying to pull like a Stretch Armstrong to extend his body, and he can't. All like in front of a line judge, which is where it was, which is why I'm kind of so surprised it wasn't called. That's why I'm saying is like, are you kidding me? Because that to me was one of those that was easy buttons. Like that was like one of those things that you call all day long. Were there other penalties missed that were likely in favor of the Chiefs, like the Chris Jones one, probably. The only one that I would agree with you, which was absolutely just beat you over the head obvious, was the tripping one that I saw that was missed. There may have been others, but I didn't see any that were like holding a guy's arm back when he's trying to stretch out to try to get up to catch a ball, or the other one that, Captain, we're probably going to eventually talk about next, which is the one that was like literally on the Jumbotron, completely well framed and well lit shot where it was completely clear that the dude was hit before the ball even came to him.
Yeah.
Like, and look, I even saw some of the biggest Chiefs accounts out there being like, well, glad we got away with that one.
Exactly.
Like, that was literally some of the comments that were made.
Yeah.
Like it's like
I mean, that's not what I'm saying though. It's comical that you use all this extra fluff to talk about the calls the Ravens didn't get, but then we gloss over the fact that that's a nature of the game. It happens to both ends. Just like I could point to Chiefs calls that they didn't get that, like I said, took a touchdown off the board, took a safety off the board. So, I mean, it happens in every game. It's a component of the game. And unfortunately, this year has been worse, I'd say, than in years past with the overall officiating. But, I mean, I can go look at every Chiefs game where there was a miss. I mean, no, I think of the Packers game when MVS legit got tackled before a ball was there and there was no call, and that sealed the game. I mean, that happens.
Oh, you talking about the overage on MVS, which was the makeup call for the Mahomes being schmacked at the sideline? We've already discussed that. It was a makeup. It was a makeup call. It was a makeup call.
In every game.
It was a makeup call. That's what we're talking about, Alex. Is when you give somebody something that's so egregiously stupid, and then somebody, and I don't know how they figure it's like they probably have that little power and say, "Hey, man, you kind of screwed up on that." Okay, well, we'll get one back to them, and they did. It was a makeup call, Alex. They screwed up the one time. And then they screwed up the other time. Net nothing. Okay? Granted, it was more egregious because MVS was severely limited in the catch.
There's the play right there.
I got you. Okay. Severely limited, but it was a effing makeup call. That's what I'm saying.
You're just taking the fact that I wish I would have cited a different one that didn't have this makeup call asterisk to it. But the point is, it happens in every game. That's all I'm saying. That stuff happens in every game. It happens to both sides. Do the Chiefs sometimes seem to come out with maybe more favorable calls than other teams? Sure. But, I mean, it's ultimately something that happens league-wide in every game. It's what it is.
Yeah, I personally like – and the refs have been absolutely atrocious this season. Do not get me wrong; they are. It seems like it's getting worse and worse. That no PI call in the Rams Saints game a couple of years back seemed like that was like the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like how like that is just ridiculous. It's plays like that where you look at it and you're like, is the NFL rigged? Like, is it really? Like, are the refs like
Oh my God!
Are the refs?
How dare you say such things?
I know. They would never. The NFL is the most.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, they have so much integrity.
I doubt if the NFL was truly rigged, why would they pick Kansas City, Missouri as the focal point at this stage of it?
Patrick Mahomes got drafted there. Patrick Mahomes went. This is what happened, and it's crazy because you can look at the timeline of this. The Patriots own the NFL for basically 2 decades.
Yeah.
And the Patriot run ended the year that the Chiefs started their run. The Chiefs have been to the AFC Championship game every year since 2018. 2018 was the last year.
They lost to the Patriots.
But 2018 was the last they were there. 2018 was the last time the Patriots were in the AFC Championship game, and I think they were in it from I want to say like the 6 years from 2012 on.
There's
I think
a few stretches.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is like it seems like the NFL has to find their mascot, I guess. And for the longest time it was Brady, and now it's Mahomes. And so
Kermit.
now it's exactly.
Now it's Darlene. It's Kermit
Yeah.
Darlene, man. You got two multiple, you know, you got Kermit and Darlene in one friggin' thing. You get an audience that way. It's not just Patrick.
And then on top of that, like, and you know, for everybody that says Taylor Swift is absolutely changing what is happening in the NFL, and to say that she isn't is just like it's just a flat out lie. The amount of money that she is making the NFL, you can't tell me
just 31 million just for the products that
300.
Yeah, it was like 300 million.
300.
Apologies, I was off by a zero.
Yeah, 300 million is what the projected revenue is just with her presence alone. Yeah.
Can you imagine what the Super Bowl is going to be like now that she's there? The tickets are going to be We thought the tickets for the Super Bowl were bad before.
Oh, they already are.
They're going to be in the hundreds of thousands for like nosebleeds, just because people are so crazy about her. But to take all that aside, we're going completely off track a little bit. The refs in this game, I feel like, as bad as they were, as Ravens fans, if you are blaming the refs more than you're blaming your own team,
you were stupid.
Then you lost me. I completely agree that the refs did put their hands all over this game, as they try to do, because everybody wants to go to NFL games to watch zebras throw yellow trash everywhere. But the Ravens absolutely lost this game themselves. They have nobody else to blame but themselves. They did not capitalize on their opportunities. The Chiefs capitalized on every opportunity, and that was ultimately the difference. Mahomes, as much as I hate him, you know he's not going to turn the ball over. You know that if he does, it's probably a good play by the DB, because he just doesn't put the ball in harm's way. And now that he has this defense to back him up, why would he even need to risk it? He's going to be happy winning every game 17-10, 21-17. He is the days of him throwing for 300 plus.
I was wondering when ref was going to chime in. Hey, Roberto, don't piss off ref. Okay, don't piss off ref.
He might have liked it.
But at the end of the day, as you know, the refs were not great, but the Ravens fans and, you know, people of the NFL, you can't look away from this game and say, yeah, the refs ruined it. It was a bad game, but the Ravens 100% just they lost this game more than the Chiefs won it.
Yes. No. I'm going to disagree there. The Chiefs capitalized and played well. The refs did very little, and the Ravens shot them not just their ass. Okay. They took the gun and inserted it into the buttocks. Okay, I got shot in the buttocks. That's what the Ravens did. They put the gun on their buttocks and shot. I gotta find Bubba. No, it's because you shot the gun into the buttocks. So that's it. That's what it was. It was a great play by the Chiefs, taking advantage of every advantage that was given. Played well. The Ravens screwed up, and the refs gave them some advantages. You put it all together, they won, and that's what the scoreboard says. They won.
Yeah, I mean, even then with that, it was a one-score game. Like, you can't even tell me that the Ravens, you know, as a Ravens fan, you can't say, oh, you know,
they scored 10 points, man.
Yeah,
like, how many games can you expect to win?
Exactly, and you're in the playoffs. Every game in the playoffs is going to be, most of the games in the playoffs are going to be one score. These are the best teams in the league. Yeah. To come away with any of these games thinking you're going to blow anybody out is ridiculous. But, you know, we'll see what happens with the Ravens going forward.
So I feel that we'd be remiss if we didn't at least briefly discuss the triple coverage piece just a little bit, because obviously that's what quite a number folks have mentioned already in the chat. Captain, your thoughts on that?
Triple coverage?
The throw into triple coverage. We really kind of just
glazed. Oh, okay. No. I get it. Okay. There are things that you don't do when you're a quarterback. Okay. One of them is you do not throw across your body to the other side of the field ever, even though, and I'm going to give the way that even though what's his nose Purdy did it in the Niner game and got away with it, you still don't do that. See, I watch other games.
Shades of Brett Favre.
Yes,
Yeah.
you don't do that. You don't think that your arm is such greatness that you can do that. Don't. Mahomes does it
Yep.
and gets away with it, but those are things that you should not do. Another thing you shouldn't do is when your jersey is a certain color, no matter what the color is, and you're throwing it to a dude that's on your team that has the same color, and there are 3 jerseys of the opposite color within, 2 feet?
The direct vicinity of
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty close.
and with leverage. Any throw that would come in.
There was one guy who was untouched on that to intercept it. That's how badly covered Isaiah Likely was on that.
And I'm like, no, he did not just do that, and he did.
He did.
And this is, and I'm going to say this, it was Mahomes and Lamar having their head that was so huge they looked like they were Kazoo. You know who Kazoo is, Robert?
From Banjo and Kazooie?
No.
I'm thinking of something else. No.
The great Kazoo. Did you ever watch the Flintstones?
Oh yeah.
Oh no, I'm
Yeah.
a little before my time.
Okay, see, I'm imparting knowledge on you, shit, man. I'm imparting knowledge on you. Okay. The great Kazoo was the little Martian guy that was hanging out with Fred Flintstone, who has the big head, the big helmet, the big head. Go look it up, seriously, and then you'll know. But Mahomes and Lamar, their heads are bigger than the great Kazoo because he thought he could do this.
At least Mahomes has some justification behind that, though. The dude is a multiple Super Bowl winner, multiple MVP winner. Nobody's going to look at Mahomes making a bad play like that and be like, oh, he's a terrible quarterback. People are going to look at Lamar, Burrow, some of these other QBs that haven't won anything, and they'll absolutely say, oh, that's a terrible play by a bad QB. When in reality is that's what happens when you are that good, like Mahomes was at such a young age, and you win early on, you're going to get that slack because we've seen him do it. We've seen him go multiple times in multiple environments, win it. Even, and this season itself was the biggest, I think. If anybody had any doubts about Mahomes, they were quickly put to bed this season because there's nothing he can't do.
I mean, yeah, the whole narrative to start the playoffs was, well, he hasn't played a road game, so
he's not
played
three
on the road.
3 in a
And then
row.
he won 3. Yeah.
Right. And I tell you what, it works until it doesn't work.
It's true.
It works. That is true. And there will be a time, and I don't know when it is. And
hopefully in the Super Bowl.
Hopefully in the Super Bowl. But there will be a time where you what's the other thing? Don't God, it's your mouth is making payments on checks that or you're writing checks that you can't
cash. Can't cash.
Something like that. I know there's checks and cash and you can't do it.
Yeah,
they're gonna bounce.
They're gonna bounce eventually. Or your alligator eyes overloaded your tadpole ass when you have a big plate of food because you had alligator eyes and you're overloading your tadpole ass in your stomach. There are things that you think you can do, and you can get away with it until you can't.
Until you don't. Yeah.
That's why you don't throw across the body to the opposite side of the field, even if you complete it, Brock Purdy or Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow or insert quarterback here. You do not throw it into triple coverage, no matter who the hell you are.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's just.
I'm with you on that one, Cap. I'm full agreement. I said.
This
game
agrees with me. I'm very, very happy now. I'm going to have an Italian dance. Hey, there you go.
So with that in mind, I mean, I think we pretty much all agree with that. Now, on the flip side of that, though, I also think there is something that we could likely collectively agree with is that despite the fact that it was, in fact, an absolute idiotic throw,
yes, it was.
And that's being kind,
yeah.
that it was still pass interference.
Pass interference. Yes, I agree with that. Yes, 100%. Because if you look at that ball before it even gets there, before I can't remember which Chiefs defender picks it off, he likely's already getting pushed. He's already getting pushed behind the play.
He already has hands on. Yeah.
100%. Now, again, that's not to excuse it, but like you said, it absolutely should have been a flag.
And Alex,
go ahead.
I want to hear this excuse.
I see the smug.
Not really an excuse.
I
think it was too. All of the contact was too bang bang, and it was after the interception ensued. So it's like, I mean, you saw the ref grab for a flag because of how close it was, but like, I mean, with the ultimate outcome, that cannot be a PI. Maybe, and I think part of it's because the throw was so off target and picked off, way kind of out of the range of where the catch radius was.
Well, that's why
maybe if it was closer.
Would you agree, Alex, that a penalty is a penalty in the first quarter as well as the fourth quarter?
Yes.
Whatever a penalty is,
100%.
It doesn't matter when it takes place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't hold your flag because it's at the end of the game. I can understand, with a Hail Mary, sometimes that's a little bit, questionable, because if you're going to throw a flag on every Hail Mary, then everybody's just going to try it. But besides that play, that type of play,
that not like in the essence a Hail Mary on he's throwing it into triple coverage into the back of the end zone.
Yeah,
he's either hoping his guy comes down with it or it goes out of bounds.
Pull up ref's comment, please, because this is from a NFL
That's
official.
what I was just saying, and you guys told me I was wrong. I said if the throw was better, it might have been a call, but I think the throw was so bad that you can't make a call with that.
Yeah, but you're saying that they can't make a call based on the throw. They could absolutely make a call based on the contact. I mean, the ball's still in the air while he's getting pushed in the back of the end zone. So much so that the defender who picks off the ball literally can just run in, like he's not even in the play. He's not even looking at Likely anymore. If you see that pick, he's full looking at the ball while he lets the other two DBs just manhandle Likely in the end zone. Again,
it's called molestation. Get it right. Okay, it's molestation. Okay, I'm just saying, man. If you're gonna call it the way it should be. It's molestation.
There we go.
So
it's a new penalty.
I actually think that, so. Alex, if I'm not mistaken,
give them the business and molestation. We need to put that in the officials. We need to add that. Hey, ref, make sure you could take a memo on that and send it to league office. we need more of those calls.
Alex, I actually think the rule itself says that the no call has to be for a ball that is absolutely not catchable. Now, there is two elements to that when you actually rewatch that, both at full speed and in slow-mo. Slow-mo, I believe, is not fair to the refs. However, I think that when you just watch that in even rough normal speed, you can see a few things take place. One, the DB that was, I honestly, I can be honest, I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but the one that was actually tracking right beside the Ravens wide receiver there, had his hands, two hands, I might add as well, on the Ravens jersey on the wide receiver prior to that. And the contact occurred before the ball was there. And so that has an impact, like it or not, it just does. Also,
in hockey, it's called a cross check. All he needed was the friggin' stick in his hand.
Right.
It was a cross.
And then the other one was, as he was getting pushed, you did see, and I will admit that it's easier to see on the slow-mo piece than it is on the full one, but you can see the attempted stretch back of the wide receiver on the replay, trying to get back to the ball, because he could see where the ball was going. He was like, oh, crap. And he was trying to stretch back to see if he could get there, but he was continually being pushed. And so to me, based on the letter of the law, based on, again, like it or not, that Ref Guru's take was mine as well, which was it was always my understanding that contact with the ball in the air, regardless of whether or not it was catchable or fourth quarter or anything, really still is DPI, like it or not. And in fact, we've seen several calls like that occur in the playoffs this year, where the announcers' feedback live in the in the coverage was the dude didn't even need to do that. The ball wasn't catchable. Like, we've literally heard that exact phrase from the announcers, and kind of given that alone, I kind of have to err on the side that was, I don't even call that was an easy call. Like, I literally screamed DP, like I just yelled right at the screen as soon as I saw it, because, and it was unfortunate. The guy, I don't think, actually needed to do it. I think he would have defended the pass easily, except I think he, who was it? The guy that stepped offside in the playoff game there too. The
Ravens or Chiefs?
Roquan Smith.
Roquan Smith. He didn't need to get that damn aggressive.
No, but he did.
He did the right thing.
Aggressive.
Yeah.
Aggressive. That's all he was missing was the cheerleader chant.
He didn't need to do it, but he did it, right? And so we can all agree that he probably made the right play, but did it the wrong way, right? And on the flip side there, the dude made the right play, but he did it at the wrong time.
That ball, I think, is still intercepted if he doesn't interfere. Like, it's triple coverage.
Yeah.
Did we forget that there was triple coverage? Yeah, triple coverage, DPI, across. Well, actually, it was a cross check. You know, it
just didn't have the stick in his hand. No, he didn't have the stick in his hands. Interference.
Thank you. Thank you, Roberto. It looked like a cross check. That's all that was needed was the friggin' stick. Okay. But yeah, you put all of that together and it's like, oh my God, what am I watching here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's put it this way, Alex. I see that call with maybe not the same impact, but certainly as blatant as the trip on Chris Jones.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It is just such the dude stuck out his foot and tripped Chris Jones. Stop it.
Call it.
Call it.
Call it.
Right? And then on the flip side, I look at that and I say, dude, literally, if you're going to look at an exact clip of what DPI is, that play was basically it, because you hit him and touched him before the ball reached the wide receiver. It was just that simple. And you just have to wait like a second or so more, and it would have been an absolute no call and a great play.
Great comment there, Rep. And we've actually gone over that, is what we see in the split second, even with all of the coverage, the angle of the referee.
I agree.
The angle of the referee needs to be taken into consideration. And yes, like I said, we see it because there's 20 friggin' cameras that show us that. The referee only has one angle of what this is, about 145-degree view angle, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's it. But we get to see it all. So it's just the way it is.
I have an interesting take on that. Is I think as fans, we can all collectively agree, and I think Alex would agree with this as well, because I think the Chris Jones.
I don't know.
No, Alex, I'm actually curious your thoughts on this. I think that the Chris Jones was a blatant and easy call to tell that should have been called.
Yeah.
What is the point of having New York there if you're not going to call it back in and say, yo, buddy, call blah, blah, blah on blah, blah, blah. It was so, like, the angle on TV was so freaking bad. Just, you have to. Like, where's the bat phone? Where's the break glass?
Yeah.
And that's my point. And so, if that's the case,
I agree. Yeah. I think there should be. I think there should be a higher review system I think the problem is, or at least it seems that the league can't find a way to do that without significantly slowing the pace of the game.
Yeah.
You know, and like, if it's, and I think to have a clear, concise way to do it, you know, like in the perfect world, like you said, is the correct call phone or whatever. It just picks it up and says, no, make this call. It's like, well, then you're leaving it up to one person, you know, and one person that has to make that decision. But I do think that there should be a better review process or challenge process on stuff like that. Because, I mean, like I said, and I mean, we've obviously talked about it. I think every game there's some ref component to it, whether you know, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just the human error element of things is there's going to be missed calls. I mean, just like baseball, like a dude's going to call a strike that another guy might not call a strike. Like that's just how it is. They just can't seem to find some streamlined way to do it without it being like, oh, we're delaying this 10 minutes to see if this was a hold or not.
Right. I don't think you need to do that with holds and stuff like that. Although maybe you could. But basically, what my whole point was this: you're within the frame, as in the literal frame of play that is shown on national television to the world. That was literally what your product, like, that was where the pan shot is, that was like squarely lit on live television. Freeze framed. And it's just like, you sure you don't want to call that one back?
There should absolutely be some sort of system, kind of like with coaches' challenges in a way. I feel like this is something that they should absolutely implement into the games. Just like the coaches have a challenge in terms of like they don't agree with the call, they should have a challenge for ref flags. If there is a flag that is thrown and they get, same thing like a coach challenge, you get one in the first half, one in the second half. If there is an egregious call, and obviously it's up to the coach when he wants to use it, but if there is an egregious call that even, you have your people telling you, hey, we need to, this is not right, he wasn't holding, whatever it is, they absolutely should be able to throw a flag. I'm not saying the red challenge flag, but a flag to be like, hey, let's get a review on this. Let's look at all the angles and make sure that we're not missing something. Because plays like that where PI can be you could have a 99-yard PI, and that's like you could basically drive the length of the field without having to do anything. So PI calls in particular, and I think they tried to implement it that one year, right, where you could review it.
That's what I was gonna say. I don't know whatever they're doing with that, they seem to not like, because they stopped doing that, right? So
because they implemented that from, like I said, from that Rams Saints game where it was blatant PI, and I mean that basically sent the Rams to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and it lasted, I think it was 2 years before they figured out this is bad juju voodoo, and we got to get rid of it.
It's making us look bad as the refs.
Yeah. So I think just one more thing that we probably would be remiss if we didn't at least mention.
Here we go.
Kicking the kicker. We'll brand that as the segment just for fun. That was an interesting one. There's obviously two sides to the story, and likely the side that no one has heard is the third version of it, which is likely the correct one. But by and large, my understanding has been that the kicker is typically always at the opponent's side of the field. That much I have largely been able to confirm for the most part.
Both sides. Kickers usually get both because of wind and stuff, so they allow them to kick on both sides of the field. And
Alex, I'll throw over to you to kind of get your take on it first, since we've all kind of gone first on the other stuff, and then we'll kind of give our 2 cents in terms of the response.
So, I mean, my take was I think it was, Justin Tucker, who is arguably one of the best, if not the best, kickers to ever play football, and is, I'd say, a little more out there than some other kickers in terms of being a competitor. And I think he even said as much, that he was kind of being difficult to try to set a tone and get under their skin a little bit. And And, at least from the accounts that I heard Tucker talk about it. He kind of brushed it off as like, good pregame rivalry fun. I heard Kelsey talk about it on his podcast, which is a little more electric, I'd say, of a take than Tucker went about it. And I heard Mahomes talk about it. Ultimately, I get the sense of, Tucker, like I said, was kind of being a kicker. And most kickers are kind of pieces and like just live in their own world and do whatever. It at least seemed that Kelsey and Mahomes were, coming out to warm up, and he put all his stuff right where they're warming up and dropping back. And, Mahomes asked him to move it, and he moved it 1 inch over and like winked at him. And then they threw it to the side. And obviously the throwing to the side is what got filmed. But I don't think there's really one side that's in the wrong over the other. I think it just was like I said, a situation of the kicker was out there kind of being an ass, and, they just kind of retaliated after he moved it all 1 inch, whatever minimal movement over.
So you're saying that he complied, though?
Sure. If that's a compliance, go for it.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
And I will say it was interesting too that Mahomes, when he talked about it, said, there's always like the kickers are always out there first. Everyone knows that. Special teamers are out there. They're out there a good 45 minutes to an hour before other players start coming out to warm up.
Yep.
And he has said, sometimes I will come out to warm up and the kicker's still doing stuff, and I'll say like, hey, we're gonna be right here. And he's like, I've never had a problem. He's like, I've only had a problem 3 times. All 3 times have been in Baltimore. So I think it's clearly, like I said, it's something that Justin Tucker tries to do to like get under the skin of people before game and be a competitor. And the one component, in the one segment of it of Kelsey chucking his stuff to the side, is what got captured and pumped around everywhere. But it's knowing how pregame stuff goes, especially and being a long snapper myself, like dumb crap like that happens with dudes like being petty just to try to be like, oh no, this is our field, man. Like I'm gonna be over here. Like that happens almost every pregame. So it's just, that I wouldn't say it was anything out of the norm of an exchange when it gets to that, setting, because he was being difficult with moving his stuff.
Yeah, I didn't read into it too much. It's playoff football, everybody's trying to get whatever little edge they can. There's going to be chirping in the pregame. There's going to be, talking in the pregame. People are going to try to get into each other's heads. It's a mental battle before the game even starts. It's 2 teams that don't like each other. Nobody, I don't know. I feel like people are just blowing this out of proportion, man.
Yeah.
Like it was like, it wasn't, and I normally don't ever agree with Chiefs fans, but like,
man, you opened up a kettle of fish with that one there.
I don't know, man. It wasn't. It didn't seem like anything was crazy to me. Like, he's kicking.
Yeah.
Mahomes can move over. Like, they were both just being competitors. I don't blame.
And mind you, like he's also stretching, and he left his kickstand on the goal line. Like, what the hell? Where's he gonna kick from the goal line?
Okay, the word is not competitors. Mahomes and Kelsey and Tucker, the word is not competitors. They're being dicks.
Yeah.
They're being dicks. And if you're going to call it, okay? And I'm not saying we all know that Kelsey and Mahomes are dicks. So is Tucker. I'm not taking anything away from him as well. But what I'm saying is that if you are a person of Mahomes' stature and Kelsey's stature, and
you don't lower yourself to that.
Yeah, I was going to say, and Tucker is, as stated, probably the best kicker when it comes down to it, ever. But and by the way, people, and for Raider fans, like I said, until you put Vinatieri in the Hall of Fame, don't talk to me about Janikowski. Until you put Tucker in the Hall of Fame, don't talk to me about Janikowski. Let those 2 guys go in first. Then we can talk about Jano, great guy that he is. But the point is, I know it's an offset, but the thing is that it was childish on everybody's part, but it's going to stick out because of who Kelsey and Mahomes are, and they were more dickish about what they did, what was on view. Okay, the retaliatory action was beyond dickish. Okay, that's what I'm saying. And when you're saying that, it, like I said, the kickers and the special teams guys have their time. If you're coming in on their time, let them have their time. It could have been handled differently, but because of Mahomes and Kelsey's ego, they handled it their way because it's like, well, nobody's going to stop us. I mean, we're in every State Farm commercial leading up to the Super Bowl that there is. You know, I'm dating Taylor Swift, and Mahomes is saying, and I got some blonde that you know could that I won't even go there. But the point is that they took it to a level, and I think were. I know you can't say these people were more wrong than the other guy, but they were. They were more wrong than Tucker, and it's bad luck. When we hate him anyway, it gives us people that can't stand him anyway just more ammo to throw at the smug brothers. Okay.
Yeah. It just to assess for how chippy I'd say it was pre-game. I mean, that wasn't the only altercation. There was like an actual shoving, slapping, you know, exchange between the secondary and some Chiefs secondary players. So, I mean, I think just the overall probably pre-game tone was a little bit of chirping back and forth, which, I mean, usually happens in games.
Playoff games, yeah.
Well, especially playoffs. Playoffs are a different – that's a different beast because it's a win or go home kind of moment, right? So you're – as a competitor, that's a completely different ball of wax, right? So
I think even in football more so, just because it's only one game versus other sports, you got best of threes, best of fives,
series
best of
of some
sevens.
sort. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My biggest issue with what I saw wasn't the end part. It was earlier on in that, we'll call it altercation, for whatever you want to call it. Tucker did not have it on his place kicker apparatus on the goal line. He had it further up. It was further back, and at that point, Kelsey intentionally ran up away from where. Like, it was nowhere really near where either of them were, and kicked it out the way. Now, that was, to me, the kind of what set the tone for, as Captain said, you know, just being a dick. Like, there's no, like, you were just being a dick. Like, there was nothing more to say there. Now, the other stuff, he had his whole stuff kind of grouped in the back part of where that goal line was, and it was all kind of grouped together kind of later on in that. That was I'm going to say that was only on Tucker, but that was certainly, I will blame equally all parties involved for that particular incident, because it was clear that the stuff was grouped and clumped together right in the back part there. And I actually think you saw him laugh when they kicked it out the way. And so
yeah, he did.
And I'm willing to bet that he knew damn well what he was doing, and he just thought that was funny, right? Like, so I'm not even going there. Like, the part that everyone's actually getting the most upset about wasn't actually what got me the most upset. I was like, dude, he's laughing. He knows exactly what he just did.
Yeah.
Right? He knows exactly what he just did. It was the, you know, minute or 2 or 5 minutes before that, where he had actually set up his place kicker, where he was like near the back portion there of the field, and was taking like a couple steps back to actually attempt to set up. And then as he's turning away, they kick it like they must have kicked it out the back of the end zone, like, because Kelsey willed that thing. And that's what I had an issue with. It was that moment, not not the one where you could clearly tell. Like Tucker do is like, they got me. It was
Like I
one
said,
of those
dude,
moments.
kickers are interesting guys, all right?
Yeah, they are.
Our kicker in college, the opposing team had to walk like around the track to get to the visiting locker room, and he would just make it a point to be out there early, and he'd kick balls into them as they walked out. They do that every game. I was like, dude, why? He's like, dude, you're 160 pounds. What are you gonna do if you piss one of these dudes off enough? But that's just kickers, man. Like to them, that's like funny and starts kind of sets the tone of like, you're at our building, But
yeah.
No, I don't know. Once I saw that, I said, "Oh, Chiefs are winning this game."
Yeah.
So you got the kicker riling people up. Oh no.
Yeah. So that was really my only point on it. It was, and I also kind of agree with Captain here as well, which is, you're Patrick Mahomes. You are not,
so far above.
Yeah, you are. You are not like the second string quarterback on a non-playoff team. You are Patrick Mahomes. And the other thing that I think is kind of a bit of a low-key element that kind of, I think, factored in a little bit to it is he had another incident where he kind of like lost his cool, which is uncharacteristic earlier in the season. And I think that, I'm not saying it should have played a role, but I think that also compounded where it was just, now there's two things this year where, in relatively short order, it kind of was out of character for him to kind of act that way. And I think it's just an unfortunate look. I think everyone's a competitor. Everyone who's at the NFL level, they're at that level for a reason. But I just think that when you are Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, and frankly, I'll also throw Tucker in there. He is a household name, whether he likes it or not as well. I just think that the two bigger name guys need to show a little bit of composure while they're warming up, rather than put themselves in that scenario, because that tape will live forever. And I think they just need to know that from just a basic marketing perspective, it's not a good look. I don't disagree with it from a competitor's perspective.
You know what's ultimately marketing, though, Rich? Super Bowls, Super Bowl appearances.
Yes.
And they've been in 4 of the last 5. So I don't think there's going to be any sort of bad look on anyone wearing Chiefs red.
I'm more referring to the swing fans. So you're going to cheer for your Chiefs no matter what. There's going to be a whole bunch of other Chiefs fans that are going to cheer from them no matter what. You have a group of people, particularly that are looking at it through, like, we'll call them the Swifties, just for lack of a better word, who have absolutely no idea about football. And like literally no idea about football. They just know that Travis and Taylor are together.
That's half the Kansas City's fans anyway. The other half are the ones that actually know what the hell they're talking about.
Well,
that's a big portion.
I'm being more generous than that in giving KC a more educated fan base than that, generally speaking.
Yeah, I know. I was just making sure that you had the statistics right.
Right, but but my point is that there's a large group of NFL fans now that have come into the league through non-football means, Taylor Swift being one of them. And that is a look that I don't believe that fans, and I use that very loosely, like that, will see or understand the competitive nature of. You and I do. Robert does. Jack does. They're going to be like, and they're just gonna whine and cry about it. Because
arguably though, the Swiftie new fans are only Chiefs fans because Kelsey is dating her. So I mean, they probably were like, "What's this kicker doing? Why is he bothering him?" They're probably on his side.
Yeah, I think I agree with Alex on that too. I think that a lot of the fans are just so enthralled by Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce that
it's just stupid.
They can do no wrong according to them.
Did Travis just catch a home run?
Yeah. it's NFL loves it because it's just more money for them. But for the fans who have been through thick and thin, and especially for the Chiefs fans who for the longest time it was bad for them.
Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry. I'll wait.
No, just saying. It's. I do appreciate the real KC fans who went through the drought of no Super Bowls to they find those are the fans that deserve what this team is putting on the field right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first off, there are, and I wanted to ask Alex this because we actually had a true Chiefs fan, right? And we said, and he's not bandwagon. We said, can you name the quarterback before Mahomes? And obviously he knew it was Alex Smith.
He
said, can you name the quarterback before Alex Smith? And he was stumped. And I had to, Alex, you just won the prize because
thanks.
Well, I remember there was.
I remember having to watch him play.
There were a bunch.
And then it was Tyler Thigpen and Brody Coyle. And
he mentioned
Frank
Brody
Green.
Coyle.
Frank Green
He
was
mentioned
cool.
Brock
That was cool.
Stewart. He mentioned the stinkers. But if you even ask, and again, this
at
is
the game that Matt Castle got hurt and all of Arrowhead cheered that he was leaving the field, which is bad. But
I'm
like, damn. That's how you know it's rock bottom.
There are real Chiefs fans that they couldn't remember either. And I was like, and I know the AFC West pretty well, and I'm like, well, shit, who what? And I'm like, I've had Hewitt in my mind, and I had Coyle in my mind. I forgot about Castle because they paid him so much money to do nothing.
Well,
do nothing.
Was it 2010 or 2009? They had it was Castle. Then they had Pioli was in the front office. They had Charlie Weiss was the OC. Pernell was. So they basically were like the revamped Patriots, and they were good for 1 year, and then just sucked.
And Romeo was their DC, I think, right?
Yeah, he was the interim coach. Then we had Todd Haley.
Yeah, don't talk to me about Todd Haley.
You have the Eagles to thank for your resurgence because I don't know why they would ever fire Andy Reid. That was the stupidest. That might be one of the worst firings in NFL history.
Yeah, but anyway, I think my point is that it's been a while.
Yeah,
and that's why it was 50 years. 50 years between hoisting a trophy that wasn't even called the Lombardi when they hoisted it the first time. It wasn't called the Lombardi. It was the trophy or the AFC and the championship trophy.
I think it was the championship trophy. I think it was what it was called back then.
It wasn't even the Lombardi. So 50 years between that. So I mean, I give props to people that are like Alex, that actually
suffered,
who know things, who know things.
The Chiefs for me growing up were sometimes good and then implode in the playoffs.
but the point is that now, and this is where we get on Alex. Okay, who's a nice guy, who has by the way, Alex's best asset is he married well. That's the best thing I can say about him. He married well. Plus, he's a lawyer, so he makes some money. But the other thing is that there are people that even though that they know what they're talking about, the smug, it's like an oozing. It's oozing like it's just like a bad fucking fart that you can see. It's
like how am I supposed to act, dude? We've been to 7 straight AFC championship games.
I get, well, you know what?
Super Bowls, what am I supposed to do but be like, this is awesome?
I get it, but you know what? It's like the Raiders.
I know it's going to go away at some point. Let me enjoy it.
The Raiders were in I think they were either in 6 or 7 straight AFC championship games. I think until the Chiefs got that right, or the Patriots got, so there are cycles of that. There are dynastic teams, and like I said, it does come in cycles because there are groups of Raiders fans that don't realize that we actually were one of the best teams in football years ago. That hasn't happened in a while. And like I say, and at least you agree, the smug pucker factor is going to drop. I just hope I live to see it.
Yeah.
I live to see it because I don't know how much longer I'm going to be around, So, but off subject.
I don't know, man.
But again, and that is the reason why that Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce are who they are. It's the reason why Tom Brady is such a bitch
Because they win.
because of he was nothing. He's actually really nothing without Vinatieri. Okay, because Vinatieri won him his first 2 Super Bowls. Okay, and you started adding it on. It's like, oh, it's all about Tom Brady. It's all about Tom Brady. Yeah, but it's about Adam Vinatieri kicking the friggin' field goals that wins you the first couple championship games, and people forget that.
Yeah.
But
or Belichick's defense stopping the greatest show on turf.
Yeah.
Well, we actually would have too.
So I think that we'd be
we
remiss
would.
if we didn't at least discuss
We'll talk, Rob.
some of the GM stuff that has occurred within our division as well. Just a brief little roundtable of some updates that have occurred.
And Harbaugh, 16 mil.
Oh, I love it.
And
Give him it all. Yep.
So Harbaugh, I think that hire was announced prior to our show last
Yeah,
week.
no, just
Last
the
week, yeah.
financials came out now.
Yeah.
Like half an hour before our show last week.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
I didn't even know until I got on the show. So
16 mil a year, I believe, was what the
For
number.
5 years.
Yeah, 80 mil in total. It is
Yeah.
a beautiful
It's
thing to
actually not
see.
that terrible. I
No,
thought
not
it'd
at
be worse.
all. I love to see it because Spanos is finally opening his checkbook, and to
Yeah.
see and to build off of Harbaugh, this whole staff that we're building, the GM, the strength and conditioning coach, the DC, this is all because
Kellen
of him.
Moore's out.
Kellen Moore is out. We were
talking about that
Yep.
last week as well about what's going to happen to Kellen Moore.
I messaged Rich. I was like, "You called it the day after the podcast. There it is. Kellen Moore interviewing with the
That's right.
Browns. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yep, there it is."
And I
he's
said
signed
they were
now,
blocking his interviews. Yeah, he's
Yep.
an Eagle.
right?
That's
Yeah, he's
it.
with the
Blocking
Eagles
his
now.
interviews. Be like, hey, Jim, you want this guy? No. All right.
All right, he's
Going,
gone.
you're
But you know what?
Sorry,
that to me, it gives me so much more confidence in what the Chargers are doing now because, like I think we had touched on it briefly. This is Jim's team. The GM, the DC, OC, all these guys that he's bringing in, he is going to build this team in his image. And my biggest concern was, is Spanos going to get in the way of that? Is Spanos going to step in and be like, I don't know about that? It seems that Spanos has given him full reign. And you know what? That is the best thing that Charger fans could have ever hoped for. Anybody who's been a Charger fan as long as I have knows the struggles we've been through at head coach and at GM and ownership in general. Because Dean Spanos has been notorious for being cheap. He does not want to open his wallet. He does not want to pay the big bucks. This is the first.
Did you see that? That was my interpretation.
Yeah.
And the moths that were coming out of the wallet. It's like because he hasn't opened it in so
I thought you were
long,
saying money was flying from the sky. You're trying to
no.
He's got cobwebs in his wallet.
Thank you. Somebody caught that. You're not so dumb.
Spanos said, I got to pay you in railroad bonds. You take that?
Yeah.
Obviously,
All my money's tied up in oil.
Yeah.
So yeah, seeing the JH and JH, Jim Harbaugh, Joe Ortiz, and Justin Herbert.
I was wondering what that was. Thank you.
Yeah, man. It's JH cubed. This is time. We're gonna ride this year for. I know chargering has been a huge thing, a thing of the that we've had to deal with, where our team just mentally is just not capable of finishing those close games. I think Jim Harbaugh
Charger to Charger.
Yeah, exactly.
Charger.
Exactly. I think Harbaugh comes in and that is going to change swiftly. I don't think he's going to deal
no
with
pun intended.
No
You got to watch that.
Oh my god.
Now, dude.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's a drop, man. That's a drop. It's going to change swiftly.
Yeah.
Woo! When he said it.
You know what? I really hope it does change though, because that is something that this team. Yeah, and I believe it will. I believe Jim Harbaugh is going to come in, take no BS from anyone. This isn't going to be the way Staley ran it, where he almost lets his players kind of dictate. His guys are going to dictate what happens on the field and with the team. Like Harbaugh is going to come in immediately. People are going to respect him. Like he's going to demand that respect. And you know what? If you're not, I would not be surprised if we see a completely different roster next season, because he's going to quickly cut out those guys that are not fit to be in his system and are not having that mental and physical toughness that he brings as a coach. So I love it. You know, I don't know much about Joe Ortiz. I can't really say much about the GM, but he came from Baltimore. You know, it's from that Ozzie Newsome and the what's his name? The other GM that came after Ozzie.
I only know Ozzie and Harriet, so I'm not there with you. So.
Yeah. So, but you know that tree, Baltimore, that is a winning. As much as it is that Baltimore is a winning franchise. They are ran incredibly well. They draft incredibly well. So I like Edward is saying that I can definitely see us maybe not winning a Super Bowl, but the whole, are we going to win 10 plus games? That's out the window. I think we are a lock to make the playoffs next year, just based on what Harbaugh does and what he'll bring to this team. You have the quarterback, you have the head coach.
Sure about that.
Well,
I don't know.
But Richie, you forget every offseason the Chargers are going to win the Super Bowl.
Oh, right.
So I mean,
I'm not saying we're going to win it. I'm just saying.
Now, wait a second. When Dangerous was brought into Denver was going to go to the Super Bowl. So it's all about which crap media. Yeah,
they got Sean Payton. They got Dangerous. They had the defense.
Richie, I know you looking at me like what the hell am I talking? But you are not listening to what the media is.
Oh no, I listened to what they said and I promptly referred to them all as idiots.
Right, but I'm just saying when they got Dangerous and Sean Payton and we're going to a Super Bowl because we got rid of Hackett who was holding us back. Yada 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 yada. It was all crap. And then you got Harbaugh, but even before Harbaugh came in, it was like we got Justin Herbert. We got Khalil Mack. We got Bosa. We got Derwin James. Oh, my God. We are just so talented.
We don't have the coach, though.
Right.
Well, they neglected to mention him.
Right.
You got an idiot.
But it was all about the crap of who was going to be the preeminent team in the AFC West.
Right.
And people forgot that team. Even when they lost the Cheetah,
Tyreek,
they didn't change that much.
Didn't miss a beat.
So, like I said,
they adapted their offense, and they kind of didn't miss much. It really was, as Coach said, the window is now closed because the Chiefs have already bridged the gap between where the original pain started coming in with the contract extension, and they've kind of bridged that gap already, and they're in the Super Bowl again. So this was your weak window. This was your time to try to attack them.
And you're in the Super Bowl.
Now you're in for a tough go because they've already readjusted their roster largely. So you got to be careful. I agree with that 100%.
We'll see. And like I said, I firmly believe, and I say this as a not as a Raider fan that actually doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about, but I remember when the AFC West was the premier division in the NFL. It was the AFC West, and everybody else sucked because you had the Chargers under Fouts, you had the Raiders under Stabler, you had, even before that, you had the Chiefs under Len Dawson, you had the Broncos. God, I don't even remember. Craig Morton, maybe. The Broncos were like the lessers, but they made it to a Super Bowl II because the officials don't know when a fumble is when Mike McCoy grabs the ball on the 77 championship game. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just talking out of turn again. But it was still, Red Miller, right? Red Miller and the Orange Crush defense, man. It was all of that. And so the AFC West was the shit. And they actually even for a time when the Seahawks were in that division with Dave Craig and Steve Largent, the AFC West was the shit. And it's still, I think that it's going to be that way real soon. I said it last year. I was wrong. because of a certain coach that finally got kicked to the curb. But you're talking about Jim Harbaugh coming in and molding that franchise. I think that's what Antonio Pierce and his team is going to do with the Raiders the same way. If you don't work, you're gone. Marcus Peters, we don't care that your father wanted to have a Marcus Peters Raiders jersey because he's from Oakland, and now he finally got one. Your ass is cut. Okay? Yeah. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, and you're gone. And he got rid of him. And I think that, like I said, Harbaugh's going to come in and clean house. Antonio Pierce with his people are going to come in and do such things. Andy Reid, remains to be seen. What he's going to do after the Super Bowl. They're saying if he wins, he walks away. We'll see.
I don't see that. I don't think so.
I'm just saying that this is the conjecture.
No, I know. I'm just saying
like that. You got Peyton and Peyton. I did get it. It's Peyton and Peyton up in Denver that's going to do something different.
They're trying to trade up for their guy.
Right. So this is going to be – I'm sorry, folks. The Wild Wild West, this show, follow it because this is going to be the most entertaining division in football, if not all of us entertaining you this year upcoming. What a great drop that is.
Yeah, I agree. So, Robert, the one challenge I think you're going to have right now with the Chargers is identifying the elements and components of your current roster that fit the identity that Jim is going to want to build. You had a rough go last year because Staley was a crap coach with with decent players. I'm not going to say good players, but decent players. And he didn't coach his side of the ball well enough. I think you're going to have the defense step up, but I think you're going to have somewhere somewhere into a middle rung offense because you're going to have to get rid of some offensive playmakers that you're probably used to or would rather keep but can't. And so I think that's where you're going to end up. I think that's where you're going to struggle. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing because I think it'll be part of your rebuilding process that I guarantee you Jim has already pitched to the owner and they're on board with.
Oh, I completely agree with that. I think we even mentioned it a little bit last podcast too, last show we did. That you're probably going to lose, and we heard Jim in the pregame of that Ravens-Chiefs game. I'm not sure if any of you caught that, but he's already been in contact with some players. Obviously, Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Derwin James. So I think him naming those players at that time kind of lets you know where he's feeling at, who he intends to keep. And like I said last show, you're either keeping one of Keenan Allen or Mike Will. Looks like Keenan Allen's the one you're keeping, and Mike Will is going to be out the door. They have, I think it's like 60+ mil cap hit between just two of them, and they're Keenan's aging a little bit. Mike can't stay healthy, and then you're probably going to lose either one of this guy or Joey Bosa or both. It might be a full reset on the defensive side, just because Telesco, kind of, not to say that it was his fault. He went all in and he got the players, but those contracts are coming back to bite us now. And that J.C. Jackson contract, I mean, that killed us more than anything because he's not even on the team anymore. The dude didn't even play half a season before we got rid of him. So I know it's gonna be a rough go of it this season for sure, but I also don't think it could be any worse than what it was last season under Staley. I mean, we talked about it too last show. They just look like they didn't even want to play for him anymore. They looked like they had given up on him midway through the season, and I know we were still technically alive, but that team was nowhere near. I mean, he had lost that locker room since Jacksonville. So I think that in and of itself, having Harbaugh there and those players buying into that system and buying into that, that mentality that he brings, I think just in and of itself will propel this team to more wins than this year, but then in previous years as well. I think we lost 7 games this year. We went 5-11. 7 of our games were by a field goal or less. I think Harbaugh is easily good for 5 of those games. I don't think we're gonna have the same meltdowns that we are known to have at the end of games where the O-line can't block. receivers can't catch balls, and everybody. It just seems like the team, when everybody needs to pick each other up, they just let each other down. And I think under Harbaugh that'll change significantly.
I want to
see
be
you guys
able to
as a
wear my 52 jersey again. And that's not a joke. I want to be able to wear my Khalil Mack Raiders jersey, and I vowed that I will never wear it until he either comes back or he retires. And right now I will say his name because I always call him 50 who otherwise. But since he's in that nether zone of where he's going to be, it's the off season. We don't know. I will be kind enough to call him by his surname, Khalil Mack. But I want to be able to wear that jersey again, and I think that with Telesco, by the way, I have to drop some good knowledge here. Sharif Salah Khan, aka Black Danos, has already coined him Tom Fiasco. So if anybody says that, I know who has the dibs on it, and they're going to have to copyright it, and they have to give Sharif Salah Khan, aka Black Danos, royalty rights because he's already said Tom Fiasco as the GM of your Las Vegas Raiders. So we'll see what he does, but he's obviously gonna bring in some talent that he knows from the Chargers because he already knows what their capabilities are, and if they're on good deals, it'll be improvements to the Raiders wealth. It's just a matter of it, like you were saying, Robert. He could draft really well with people that fall into his laps in rounds 1, 2, and 3. What we need to see, and with Champ Kelly still there in that advisor role, it's the people that they have gotten into later rounds and the unrestricted free agents, and hopefully between Tom Telesco, aka Fiasco, and with Champ Kelly, that we'll be able to draft well and turn this thing around as well.
Yeah, I'm
Jack, to answer your question, I kind of closer to Ed. I think it'd be 20 to 25 mil a year. Because honestly, I'd imagine if Chris Jones doesn't re-sign with the Chiefs, it means he wasn't willing to take a team-friendly, incentive-ridden deal, and he's looking to get his last, secured bag, which I think is somewhere in the realm of probably like 23 to 25 million.
Yeah, somebody will pay him 20-25 million in the offseason if the Chiefs don't do it 100%.
And that's going to be the biggest that's the biggest conundrum with the Chiefs is it
it's the cost of winning.
Resign Jones or resign Snead?
I think you resign Jones, in my opinion. That's just me. I hope you don't, but I think that's the guy you absolutely need to start targeting this offseason.
Yeah, and like I said, if you don't re-sign him, and as long as he gets out of the AFC West, that's a win for us.
Oh, yeah, big time.
So just tying back in, Robert, to the Denver Broncos here, and then we will close out the show. I see what Jim Harbaugh has to do. He's in a similar position now to Sean Payton. It's an organizational mindset rebuild. You hear the word culture used a lot, and I think that the Chargers are in a cultural rebuild, which is guys that can finish games.
Absolutely.
So, as an example, the Chiefs have adapted their mindset over the last several years to get guys in the building. Patrick Mahomes mainly one. You have Travis Kelce. You got Chris Jones. You got other guys. The core of their offensive line, that kind of left guard, center, right guard, that core group that they've kind of kept, those are all guys that can finish games. They can get and finish games for the Chiefs. And, well, the proof's in the pudding in terms of how where that's gotten them in terms of success. Looking at what the Broncos are needing to do, they have made one major change, which I believe is going to be moving in that direction. And that is actually two of them. One, they've hired Cody, it's either Rager or Ranger, if you're trying to add the N that actually isn't in his last name. It's Rager. He is coming in as a really oddly placed acquisition because he almost sounds like he's a quasi GM, but George Payton's still there. It's It's a super curious pickup and bring in for the Broncos. Those that are not Broncos fans, it really is actually worthwhile digging into. He's a super strange pick and acquisition. Dare I say, almost as, I'm not saying this is a bad thing because I actually really like him. Very odd that Champ Kelly didn't actually aggressively look and try to become a GM elsewhere, because he's of a similar pedigree to a Kelly. I'm not trying to slander the Raiders at all. Actually, I'm using these guys as
no. And like you said, keeping Kelly in the building for at least one more year is going to be dynamic. You got to make sure that because he's going to be gone next year. He will be a GM in 2025.
He's too good. Kelly is too good. He's too good, and so I see that happening. He's gotten interest in the last like 3 or 4 cycles for GM. Like it or not, I think he's out the door just because he's too good not to be. And last but not least, the one guy that I do think needs to be discussed is a guy by the name of Pete Carmichael. He is the
former offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints.
Correct. But
now we just got to get Taysom Hill in Denver, and it's complete.
No, but that's not what Carmichael was known for, though. Carmichael is not a good coordinator.
Oh my God, you're actually correct.
Carmichael is not a good coordinator. But do you know what he is, though? He is a great play designer.
Okay.
And he's the so. For example, you got guys that are really good at coaching, and a lot of those guys, they're the ones that can recognize the play that's appropriate for the moment. So you get guys like Andy Reid, I think is a great example of a gifted play caller who puts the right plays in the headset for Mahomes to kind of capitalize at the right moments. You have other guys, with the exception of the last game, like Ben Johnson, who have typically put the right calls in for the Lions to win out games and do very well.
He's going to get a job next year too.
Pardon me?
Yeah.
Ben Johnson's going to get a job next year too as a head coach.
Yeah.
But if he does, he was wanting like $20 million a year or something ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, he was wanting Harbaugh money, but I think if he comes back and does the same thing again next year,
he'll get it.
I think he'll get it. And so, anyways, when I look at what guys are good at, some guys are just architects. They are just gifted football minds that can just draw up X's and O's and say, third down, this is what I would do. Now, a guy like Sean Payton, though, he's the guy that knows what to call and when to call it. But he wants that other guy that can play the secondary cultural role to architect and build out those plays. That's what Carmichael is. And so you talk about a cultural shift for the Broncos. I believe, who was it? It was the fullback play that we had to the not the fullback, the tight end play that was designed at the back end of that second game that the Broncos played. Dude was wide open and just absolutely just owned the play. Like, that was not a Russell Wilson audible. That was a Sean Payton, you are calling this, and I swear if you do not call this play, you are never seeing the field again.
And he didn't, because they benched his.
Well, they benched him anyway. Right, like, you know exactly what that was, right? That was not a Russell Wilson audible. That was a Sean Payton say, run this now. And it was ran.
Absolutely.
And so I think Carmichael is that guy, that dude for the Broncos. He's the guy that's going to be sitting in the back room in the offseason, putting together binders and binders of play calls and play designs and things of that nature. And then Sean Payton and he are going to sit down for probably a solid week and start picking out the best of the best based on what they want to look like and how they want to look as a team for next year. And I believe that that's going to be his role. Something that I think that a lot of other AFC West teams and other football guys are overlooking is that there are two types of guys in the offensive side, play caller and guys that can design. On rare occasions, you end up with both, right? Like two sides of the same coin that can kind of
Right.
think in both sides. But typically you end up being one or the other, and you need that other guy to be the one that you bounce stuff off of. And Alex, one thing that I think is actually very important to note is we were making conversations about the Chiefs. Again, want to tie this full circle before we say goodbye to everyone here. You had your offensive coordinator there in KC, that it was widely known that he was a details guy. That was his thing. It was P's and Q's, do the
and
thing.
You saw the lack of detail once he left,
Yep.
at least at the start of the year.
Yeah,
So.
and that's exactly what I'm talking about, right? Is some dudes just know what to do and know how to call it and understand things like game flow, and then other guys are architects. I think Andy Reid is more of an architect than he is the game flow guy, although I think he's still much better than most at the game flow aspect as well. But it is clear that he needs a details guy. He needs the quality control, pounding the table, do your job sort of guy, right? He needs the disciplinarian to kind of be on staff to kind of lock those details up. And the Chiefs have now tied that together at the exact right time, and that's why they are where they are right now. So, guys, with that in mind, we will be leading in to the Super Bowl in our next show. You are not going to want to miss it. We are going to have Alex break down his thoughts, what he sees his Chiefs needing to do to win that game. We'll go all the way down that rabbit hole. We will also discuss any additional AFC West changes to our teams leading into things. And then we will start leading in and discussing some teasers into where and why we think each of our rosters, where they're going to go, what they're going to look like. And because we each have cap things that we need to sort out, largely with the exception of the Raiders, each of our teams are going to have to go through some adjustments this offseason to get our rosters ready for the 2024 league year. I think those are going to be some interesting discussions. Ladies and gentlemen, where the West Side is the best side, we will see you next week.